Rodney was always an adventurous kid. It was nothing he wouldn't do or try. All his life, he's never been afraid to push the envelope as to what would happen. He was Rodney.
Rodney was a true big brother. I would say he was pretty protective. He was protective of the rules.
To me, he was someone for me to look up to and to fear, because he didn't take anything off of anybody, and he didn't let anybody mess with his family.
He didn't stand any pushing. There was no gray in his life. You was right or you was wrong. It wasn't almost right or almost wrong. And he didn't mind standing up defending what he believed in.
Robert and I were little kids when Rodney made the decision to join the Marines.
He had decided early, about the 9th or 10th grade, that he was going to join the Marine Corps. Those big muscular guys they had standing on those posters is what it was his dream to look like that. I guess the one thing they did for him was he got those muscles he had always wanted.
He enjoyed his time there. It was different because none of us had ever been away from home, and he was away from home, all on his own.
He left a boy, and next time I saw him, he was a full-grown man.
He met his wife in London when he was on embassy duty in London.
He came home to bring his children because he wanted his mom and dad to take care of his family while he was gone.
And when he left home, I said, man, don't do anything crazy. And he told me, you get up every morning and go to work, and you believe that you're coming back home, what you're going to do. So all I'm doing is going to work. He was just as calm about it as you can possibly be. It was business as usual.
Traffic in the Quezon Valley at that time was getting a little heavier. When we first showed up, we cleaned it out pretty good. And they were filtering back in because they had a plan. They had a plan for the Tet Offensive. One night, Delta Company went out and set in on this hill, and they were observing what was going on, ready to push on the next day. The North Vietnamese had shown up 2 days earlier, and they were living underground on that very hill. They started coming out of the holes, and these guys were close quarter fighting, hand to hand. I mean, it was a vicious, vicious battle. Before daylight, Bravo Company was called in off our bunkers, our patrols, whatever we were doing during that night, told to saddle up in a hurry, and we took off to walk out there and relieve Delta Company. When we got there, we looked at Delta Company, and they just were devastated. Hadn't been evacuated, they're dead yet. They had seriously wounded that were moaning. It was a horrible, horrible scene. The choppers came in and evacuated them, and then we started chasing the NVA. Finally, on the September the 6th, they decided we had chased them far enough. They had us where they wanted us now. And we walked right into a three-pronged ambush. And we were on this long tree line when they opened up on us. And we hit the ground, and all we had was like these little mounds that these trees were growing out of. Sergeant Davis, he went around and he was making trips from position to position, dangerous, I mean dangerous. And I kind of thought, man, what are you doing? Very calm, collected, he was in charge. Gave us our fields of fire, and we fought up through the night. I mean, it was a bitter battle. Along that line, Sergeant Davis, he was in a position with Lieutenant Brad Keene, my buddy Randy Leadham, and they were like in this hole. When the firing stopped, when it let up, that usually assigns somebody sneaking between you and where the shooters are. So these guys were coming, and it was a grenade attack. They were lobbing grenades out of the brush in there. One of them threw in a grenade, and it was right at Randy Leadham's, his feet. Randy told me he went, back like this. He said, I was giving it up, man. Tell my mother I love her. And then boom, he says, Sergeant Davis bumped him and landed on the grenade. And he said, I could see him like he had recovered a fumbled football. He says, and the grenade went off, he lifted off the ground like this and came back down. Somebody said, what was that? What was that? And there's a lot of grenades going off, but that one, for some reason, and Randy said, Sergeant Davis jumped on a grenade, saved us.
I imagine He saw that grenade come into that trench, and I don't think he had a second thought as to what he would do.
For him to do that, sacrifice that at a time when, you know, that was the Jim Crow South. He was a black man. The guys he saved, every one of them were white men. Love, I guess, can't see color.
He gave his life for Marines. I don't think he thought about them being black or white. If he hadn't gave his life for them and came back to the United States alive, he would have to go through the same racial stuff. People talking about him, calling the names, and he saving their lives. You know, I said, I don't know how he could have took that. I really don't.
He inspired me. That was my first inspiration to go into the military. Marine Corps instilled in us, in basic training, we were taught to say light green Marines and dark green Marines. Green being the common. We were all green. We were all Marines. Marine Corps conditioned us that there was, you know, we were all brothers. To reflect back on what a lot of our African Americans and service members had to endure during that time, serving a country, to be treated that way by your country, but yet still, he looked beyond color to protect his family. That had to be what he was thinking at that time.
We did not find out exactly what he had done until we were on the way to Washington to be presented to Congressional Medal of Honor. We were in the airport in Atlanta when he read that citation to us, that what had actually happened. That was a tough one to swallow. Everybody talking about him being a hero and what he did. I said, but you know, that was my little brother. Knowing our mom, see Judy sitting there with both of those babies wrapped around her arm. How do you say something to somebody? What do you say at that moment? Just, you know, all you can do is hold her.
At Linwood Cemetery, there's a lot of history with that cemetery. To me, the importance of having Sergeant Rodney Davis laid to rest at Linwood, this is somebody that it's right here, homegrown, being a former cadet with the Northeast JROTC unit. I heard about him and his heroism. I was very saddened when Sergeant Williams took me over there. Sergeant Gordon C. Williams, he selflessly gave of himself to make sure that the public knew about Rodney M. Davis. And he just had a vision to make sure that that cemetery was clean, that there were monuments erected, that people would know and remember always who Rodney M. Davis was and what he stood for. And he literally took cadets from Northeast High School over there, and gloves on, bags, we were basically cleaning.
A group of us concerned citizens approached the City of Macon Community Resources and Development Committee because we were concerned about the blight of the cemetery. One of the most lucrative partnerships we've had is with the Marines, the 1-5 Vietnam veterans.
Randy retired, and one of the things he did was he went to the gravesite of Rodney Davis to pay his respects. And when he got there, he could see that they had done a very nice job with it originally. You know, the gravesite was nice, but the cemetery was very old. Most of the people that have family in there don't live in the area anymore. And he was really upset by the condition of the cemetery. So the word got to Nicholas Warr, who spearheads these kind of products. Nick said, you know, we need a bigger monument here. So we started fundraising. We got $85,000, which was enough to build our monument exactly the way we wanted it, and also to start a scholarship fund.
Sergeant Rodney Davis is pretty much like a celebrity of the cemetery. There are ways where we can motivate, especially the troubled young Black people, if they learn about a Sergeant Rodney Davis, who are heroes, not Marvel comic heroes, but they are the real heroes.
I think it's important, especially with young people, as they grow up, as they learn, that they can see somebody that looks just like them and take pride in that and say, this is a man that gave his life. Who am I not to be able to give Maybe not the ultimate, as Mr. Davis did, but to give.
To learn of a man that would sacrifice himself, cares about his fellow Marine more than he cares about himself. I want to be like that. I want to be like that.
He's got grandkids from his daughter, 2 girls. I'm glad that monument, that's so his grandchildren can come and see it. They say, well, that's my granddaddy. What did he do? Why did he do it?
It's definitely something that makes me very proud. And it's something that, I've told my sons about. Sometimes it can be hard, actually, for me to talk about it even after, all of these years. But ultimately, it's just they're in awe. They're like, wow, your dad, he did that. What a great sacrifice he made.
It used to kind of upset me when I thought about it, because I was like, he had a family, but he thought bigger than just himself, and he wanted to save people. To me, it tells the story of America, the sacrifice that he made during that time period. Even though in the state that he grew up in, they were segregated, when he made his decision to do what he did and sacrifice his life, he did not see any color lines. He didn't see black and white at that time. And he just did what was the right thing to do. And I think that's a lesson for America. We shouldn't see color lines. We should always just do what's right for each other, the betterment of each other.
I like to believe that the Medal of Honor stands for the greatest love you can have for your country, your fellow man, your fellow Marine especially. He is the definition of Semper Fi.
Well, I was thinking about how Rodney would perceive his legacy. And that came to my mind that he would be the first one who said, I don't need all of this. He made a sacrifice to save people. He didn't ask anybody, how long have I known you? What color is your skin? What's your religion? What's your sexual orientation? I think that is the legacy I want. I want people to come together and see each other as people.
He just exemplified to me the man that I wanted to be, whether it be his Marine family or his blood family. To put them before yourself, it's powerful when you think about it. His name should never be forgotten.